Is that Dunkin's new holiday blend coffee?
Sure is. Because sometimes the holidays just call for Dunkin'.
What's in it? A spark of holiday spirit?
A cup full of holiday cheer?
Your very own holiday shopper?
Actually, all that. And notes of molasses and dried fruit. Just the warming blend I need for that holiday hustle.
Ah.
Sit through the holidays with the $2 medium holiday blend coffee at Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Hello, this is Discover, and we take customer service very seriously. We know that if you have a question or concern about your credit card, that's a serious matter, and you need to talk to a real person about it. So we offer around-the-clock access to seriously talented representatives in the USA. Again, it's a serious endeavor. The only funny thing about it is Bob. If you call us and Bob answers, you're in for a treat. Get 100% US-based customer service and talk to a real person day or night. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
You're listening to Two Chunks and a Hunk. Movie musings for mostly everybody.
Remember, true believers, with great power comes great responsibility.
Hello and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk. My name is Jordan Wonders, and this week I am your chunk.
I'm Doge, and Peter Parker. Sometimes, to do what's right, we must be steady and give up the things we desire the most, even our dreams. Doc Ock, you're right. A piece of wreckage gets sucked into the machine. Outside, several cars are pulled toward the vortex. Doc Ock, to his arms. He's right. The tentacles click and whirl, strongly disagreeing with him. Dr. Otto Octavius, listen to me now. He finally acquires his sanity and control over his tentacles. With a jerk, a tentacle lets go of Peter. Now, tell me how to stop it. Dr. Otto Octavius, it can't be stopped. It's self-sustaining now. Peter Parker, think! Doc Ock, unless the river, drown it. Peter turns to leave, but a tentacle grips him once again. Dr. Otto Octavius, I'll hunk it. He heads toward his Frankenstein creation, pausing for a moment to look back at Peter. Peter meets his glass and then, sensing someone, looks behind him and sees Mary Jane.
I love it so much when you do. All
Did you ever say hunk?
Yeah,
Doc Ock said, "I'll hunk it."
I'll hunk it. He said. I was listening for it,
Dude, it's like a it's like a baseball bat to my kneecaps.
Oh, I'm sorry that you don't like audio theater, Jordan.
I'm Carter.
You know, in theater when somebody comes out and is like, "I'm Hamilton, real quick, hold on," and then says
me
line.
Gosh, I'm Carter, and
What are we going to call this guy?
Dr. Octopus,
That's crap.
Science Squid,
Crap.
Doctor Strange,
That's pretty good. But it's taken. Wait. I got it. Dr. Octopus.
but I chunk it.
This is a second week in a row. It's a pretty solid J.K. Simmons.
I have to now.
It's a very good one. It's
You
very
have to.
good.
As long as JK's there, I'm gonna have to keep going.
Can we speak to J.K. Simmons, Carter? Is
Is he
with
in
us
the room?
today?
Is he in the room?
Is J.K.
Is he
here
with
right
us
now?
today? No, he's not. He's not.
Carter,
He
are
might
there
show
any
up.
are there any yellow M&Ms with us today?
Okay.
This guy's
Doge.
nuts. Wait. I'm on the inside. I'm a nut.
But he's so different as the yellow. He's so
His lips are not as floppy.
lower down. It's like
Yeah.
he's not being J.K. Simmons in that sense.
Yeah,
He's such
totally.
a great actor.
Oh my
I think he got
gosh.
I think he got an Oscar nomination for Yellow.
Oscar for
You know
nomination.
Yeah,
Got an
Oscar nomination for Yellow.
nomination.
They were like,
Doge, why are you the hunk?
surprising display of talent from the Whiplash
You
guy
can't
to
be
be a
like
yellow M&M.
trying to speed it up and get us into the episode when y'all took combined 7 minutes before I could even introduce myself. So don't get
Yeah,
on
that's
me.
true. That's true.
I never. Carter, do you think I called you out specifically?
I do. I'm insecure this morning.
I'm the hunk because we got a puppy dog.
Good for you, man.
Puppy!
A little white puppy dog. We adopted him from White Rock Dog Rescue here in the DFW Metroplex. And all the photos of him, we thought he was tan. He looked like a little tan boy. So we had all these great names picked out for a tan dog. And we got there and he's white, like completely pure white.
Ghost-like even.
Ghost-like even. And since Game of Thrones ended so bad, his name is not Ghost. His name is Bear because he looked like a little polar bear. And he's the best. We're so happy that we have him. The rescue did name him Parmesan.
That's a good name.
And that is actually the best dog name I've ever heard in my life. So there's part of me that didn't want to change it.
That's his first name, but would go by his middle name, Bear.
Sure. Yeah.
Parmesan Bear.
Parmesan Bear.
I will only be referring to him as Parmesan for the rest of his life.
He's like 7 weeks old. So Jean. We thought about calling him Sean.
Parmesan.
We thought about calling him Sean, short for Parmesan.
Sean.
Sean. We thought about Sean in honor of Lucas Black and what a cool and normal dude he is with totally great worldviews.
This one's off the rails already. There's no more rails.
Let's bring it back on the rails.
Let's bring it back on the rails.
Much like what Peter tries to do.
Oops, no rails.
At the penultimate scene of this movie.
You used penultimate right.
He did it.
I'm trying to feel better about myself.
Did it. You know what? My puppy's growing and so is my Carter.
Aw.
That's so sweet. We are continuing our Spider-Man series.
Hey, real quick, that was right in my ears because of my headphones, and I hated that so much.
It's also going to be right in the ears of every listener.
Sorry, guys.
So you're not having engine problems. That's Carter purring into his microphone.
Purring like a dog do. To continue our Spider-Man series leading up to the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, we have the second Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie known as Spider-Man 2
World Tour.
Doge, give me a synopsis that I can really sniff and taste.
Sure, bud.
Thank you.
This week's synopsis, we once again return to the editorial stylings of Sumitra, IMDb user, who provided the synopsis last week. Sumitra this week writes,
my favorite coffee.
Peter Parker is an unhappy man. After 2 years of fighting crime as Spider-Man, so just real quick, Tobey Maguire is supposed to be 20 in this. After 2 years of fighting crime as
21,
Spider-Man.
I believe, because there's a time jump in one. Yeah.
Yep. After 2 years of fighting crime as Spider-Man, his life has begun to fall apart. The girl he loves is engaged to someone else. His grades are slipping. He cannot keep any of his jobs. And on top of it, the newspaper Daily Bugle is attacking him viciously, claiming that Spider-Man is a criminal. He reaches the breaking point and gives up the crime fighter's life once and for all. But after a failed fusion experiment, eccentric and obsessive scientist Dr. Otto Octavius is transformed into supervillain Dr. Octopus, Doc Ock for short, having 4 long tentacles as extra hands. Peter guesses it might just be time for Spider-Man to return, but would he act upon it?
That's the end. Okay.
Would he? Guys, I need to know, would he act upon it?
Would he, though? I am certain that I have told this story on this podcast, but I'm going to
Hey, that's never stopped us before.
Amen, brother.
So I was making a sandwich.
That's so long ago now. About 2.5 years ago, I watched, I was in counseling at the time, and I watched Into the Spider-Verse in my house for the very first time. And if you haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse, spoilers, but I mean, what are you doing if you haven't watched that movie?
Yeah, for real.
But in the first few minutes, Chris Pine's version of Peter Parker, sort of like the Spider-Man Prime sort of situation, is killed. He dies. And all of New York finds out via push notification on their phones. And I don't know what happened to me. So I have a thing. I wish I could cry. I'm a very emotional person. It's just there's like a cry mental block in my brain. I just don't do it. I'll well up, but I don't cry.
Yeah.
I bawled inconsolably. Had to pause the movie, like full blown, like like couldn't catch my breath.
Jordan.
Like bawled like a baby. And Callie's laughing at me, not out of meanness, but out of like, why this? I don't know. I don't know. And in counseling, I had a long conversation, and my counselor was like, what age do you think Spider-Man was in that movie? And I was like, probably close to my age.
Yeah.
And he was like, and what do you identify with Spider-Man about? And I was like, I feel like I have to do the right thing a lot. Like it was like a whole thing where we like uncovered that I have this like childhood connection to Spider-Man because of his desire to do good. It's the same reason Samwise makes me cry at the end of Lord of the Rings. It's like that whole thing. I've got this whole connection to Spider-Man. It is the reason that in my 20s, my favorite superhero became Spider-Man instead of Batman. But as I became a man, I put away childish things.
Yeah, sure.
Became a teenager.
Guys, I cried again last night when I watched this
did.
movie. Not a full-blown like ball session or anything like that, but we'll talk about the scene that it happened for me. But for some reason, we've discovered that I have 2 cry buttons as an adult. Iron Giant and Spider-Man.
Toby's a top 5 cry boy. He's pretty good at crying.
crier.
He's a good crier.
He's up there with Mel Gibson for me.
Let me say something I appreciate about Raimi's Spider-Man movies that we haven't really seen since, and it is this. Sam Raimi and by extension Tobey Maguire are unafraid for Peter to look weird when he is struggling or crying or sad. Like they do not shy away from there's none of this like heroic face of like, I can do this. It's like Peter looks like he is in pain. He looks like he is struggling a lot of time.
Toby's great.
He's good, man.
Well, like the faces that he's making when he's stopping the train, for example, are some of the worst faces ever committed to celluloid. This was shot on 35 millimeter film, and I think this is why things are shot digitally now, because they were like, nothing, we can't print anything else on film that's ever going to look that bad. But I think that's intentional, and we will definitely talk about that next week. There's a scene that is pretty universally regarded as the worst thing in a superhero movie of all time that I actually am an apologist for, and I think is pretty good and a smart decision. But like in these movies, we're totally unafraid to remind people, hey, Peter Parker is not cool.
Right.
Peter Parker is completely a dork and kind of a loser. And that's okay. And that's sort of the point. It's totally fine that he is not at all cool. And Peter himself is not aspirational.
Spider-Man is.
Right.
And thus by extension becomes Peter, which we'll also talk about.
Exactly.
We'll talk about the ways that, let's just talk about it now. I think this is good. Yeah. So one of my this is my favorite Spider-Man movie that exists to date. This is a peak of Spider-Man.
This is maybe my favorite superhero movie, at least a top 5. Like this is, for whatever reason, every single thing in this completely works for me.
Yeah, it's dorky, it's campy, it's cheesy. The science behind the villain makes no sense. The fact that it starts pulling cars from a mile away, but before it finishes destroying the building is hilarious to me. Like there's so much of that stuff that's
the way I'm viewing this movie. This movie is like when superhero movies were in 6th grade.
Yeah.
Where there was some stuff about them that was pretty cool, but they also hadn't learned to be embarrassed of themselves yet.
Right.
I think The Dark Knight is when superhero movies kind of learned like, oh, we don't have to be embarrassed of ourselves. Like they hadn't done
things. The Dark
things.
Knight is when you're in the 7th grade and you watch one of your friends kiss a girl for the first time. You're like, I didn't even know that was on the table. Are you kidding me?
Are you sure we can do that? But like this to me, this is 2004. This is when superhero movies are in 6th grade. There's enough cool stuff about them. They haven't learned to be embarrassed of themselves yet, so it's incredibly cheesy.
Right.
Then we get the Dark Knight. We get this brief period where everything's got to be broody and dark. And now it feels like our superhero movies are sort of graduating high school, getting to college. We're like, we can be goofy and campy, and that's fine. We can laugh at ourselves. We can be 100%. A little embarrassing. But this is just so like earnestly cheesy that it's incredibly charming.
Yeah, and it's the earnestness that Earnesty is not a word. The earnestness that really pays off here. So,
and that's Mary Jane's play, by the way, the importance of being earnest. So
I don't think that's an accident, honestly.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I love about this movie, one of my favorite things about Spider-Man as a character, done really well, and I feel like Sam Raimi gets Spider-Man.
Yep.
Same.
One of the things that I love about this movie is that Spider-Man, we get to see how Spider-Man is transforming the citizens of New York in a positive way. And one of the best ways that we get to see that is one of my favorite scenes. It's the first time I began to well up with tears in the movie. One of my favorite Spider-Man scenes of all time, when a powerless Peter Parker runs in to save the young girl from the fire. Yeah. When we see that Peter has been transformed by doing the right thing to the point to where even when he's now at a disadvantage, he's still going to do it.
Yeah.
It's so good because we get to see, cool. Then we're immediately followed up with Aunt May and the kid Henry across the street.
That's my favorite part of this movie.
That kid needs Spider-Man, that Aunt May needs. I mean, Aunt May knows.
Yeah.
Is it? I can't remember. Is it ever revealed that she knows?
It's never revealed. I think this
defo knows, dude.
I think she knows. I think she probably recognized his voice at the bank earlier with Jeff from Community being the bank teller.
She definitely knows. This whole scene to me works better when you think that she knows.
Absolutely.
But yeah, dude, just watching the way, because that's the thing about Spider-Man. You talk about, Batman loves to talk about he's a symbol. Spider-Man might even do that better without talking about it as much.
Yeah.
Right.
Spider-Man is a symbol of hope. And I found myself watching the scene where he is back in New York, is freaking out. Mm-hmm. Just thinking about the joy that had to be felt in that city when the red and blue is so bright and swinging above the city again. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I could gush about this movie probably for the next hour without taking a breath.
Yeah. It's hard to take an objective stance on this movie.
It really is.
Because I saw this in theaters maybe like the day it came out. And I was 10 years old.
It was life-changing.
This was absolutely everything to me. I talked last week about how Spider-Man 2 is probably the reason I love movies.
2004?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I keep forgetting how much. Okay.
Yeah. We're babies, Carter.
I was driving. I was 16. I think I drove to this.
You drove me. You drove me to it.
You were babysitting us. Yeah. No,
you
this
pooped
movie
everywhere.
As a 10-year-old, yeah, it's embarrassing. But I liked comic books. I was a nerd.
Pooped right in my pocket protector.
Gross. But it's good because it's plastic, so I didn't ruin it.
Yeah, you just wipe it off.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if anybody's still listening, if we haven't completely lost you, this movie was absolutely everything to me when it came out. And I find it impossible to articulate how meaningful this movie was to me when I saw it and how meaningful it continues to be for me. I think that through counseling, I've uncovered a bit of a savior complex that I have.
Hey,
where it's
me as well.
Where it's like, and I think it stems from this movie of like, Peter, if you have the power to make a difference, any power at all to make a difference, you owe it to people to make that difference. And I think there are probably healthy ways to view that and healthy ways to apply that to your life. And there are probably unhealthy ways where it's like you're draining yourself of your own power to make a difference. So I think that has to be balanced with a pretty healthy dose of self-care. But it's that kind of ethos that's at the heart of this movie that, to me, that is Spider-Man. And I really don't think we do that again. I genuinely don't know that we do that very well in the Amazing Spider-Mans, except for maybe the very end of Amazing Spider-Man 2. And the more I'm watching this is probably the first time I've rewatched these since Tom Holland's Spider-Mans came out. Mm-hmm. The more I'm realizing that Tom Holland is a great choice for Peter and Spider-Man, but those scripts are pretty bad Spider-Man stories. I don't
know that I agree with that necessarily.
I actually don't think they're very good Spider-Man stories at all. Compared to this is very like Silver Age classic. This is
a very traditional Spider-Man
This is the
story.
core of Spider-Man. I think these newer ones, because to me, part of the core of Spider-Man is that like the conversation with May at the dining room table where he's like this incredible guilt that he's living with of like, I'm the one responsible.
Yeah.
I could have stopped the guy that killed Uncle Ben. And now I have to watch you widowed being pushed out of your home because I was selfish in that moment. And so I'm going to spend my whole life making it up to you, making it up to New York by proxy. Yeah. And we don't really get those emotional, I mean, it's soap opera. We don't get those depths, I think, again, from another Spider-Man.
I agree with that. I think in defense of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, I just think they're telling a different type of Spider-Man story that is less Peter compelling and more action. It's more action than it is character.
I think, to be honest, the Tom Holland Spider-Mans were approached with reverence to what Maguire had already done, to be honest.
Yeah, probably.
I feel like they were like, we can't do this better, maybe, is what I think. In the overarching universe. One of my favorite things about Spider-Man, I prefer as a hero and as the movies, and there's more influence for me, I prefer Batman. But I cannot argue that Spider-Man is the most relatable hero.
Right.
And it's not just because he's younger and ignorant. It's a lot of things. And I think the hype around Spider-Man, we talked about yesterday, the trailer when Tom Holland got emotional, but the new trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home and just how excited everybody was. There's a different energy there. I think there's a different energy about being excited for Spider-Man than I think any other hero. And it really is a childlike energy to me. It is like when I was watching Spider-Man 2, even though I know I was 15 or 16 when this came out, I'm still like feeling the plastic of like the Spider-Man toys that I had. I'm smelling my Whopper from Burger King. Like I'm like
Spider-Man on the box. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm tasting the DP on the can because they locked it down. I'm just like, there is a nostalgia there that I think maybe in canon of like culturally of Spider-Man, of what we were able to see on screen, you can't do if Tobey Maguire had not been the choice.
Right.
I think it needed to be him. And we talk about how a lot of the times, not necessarily how movies or actors luck into something, but it is kind of they kind of did. I mean, if it wasn't Tobey to kind of come out of nowhere when we finally decide to do a pretty good cinematic Spider-Man universe, I don't know where we'd be right now. I think if it started with Garfield or it started with, I don't know.
So he hurt his back in between Spider-Man 1 and 2 and almost did not return for this. You guys know who it would have been, who was in negotiations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's your boy, Jordan. It was Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
He's having a tough week this week.
Yeah, I know.
He's having a tough week.
You missed out on Spider-Man, but at least you got a cool scarf. So...
What I had read though was that like Tobey had to apologize later because he was faking. It was like he was faking the injury to get more money. Do you believe that? Or
he's that good of an actor?
You choose not to.
I can't believe it. He's that good of an actor.
But they just let him go. They were like, "Hey, we're not going to do this. We can't deal with you."
Now I am going to go ahead and super dump if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, go for it.
Just to get it out of the way. Man, James Franco's really bad in this movie.
Yeah.
Like really bad.
I think he's better than in last week's Spider-Man, though.
I think so too.
I don't know.
But he's still really bad.
So? Maybe it's because there was just more of him.
I think he's got a smidge more charisma, and it's still really awful. And he's, to me, the worst performance in this movie.
Yeah, it would have been fine if he was just playing a caricature of a spoiled brat,
right? That
wants to get his way and is just brooding. We've seen plenty of actors and actresses do that, but he wasn't acting. He just wasn't acting well.
Yeah.
He couldn't even do that.
Yep. Yeah, he's my super dump. It was really bad.
Maybe chalk it up to being early in his career. But no bueno.
So this is probably a good time to mention, I watched Spider-Man 2.1. That's kind of an extended director's cut that was released about a month before Spider-Man 3 came out. So Spider-Man 3 marketing was in full swing, and they're like, hey, let's play the hits again. Let's give them another Spider-Man 2. This time it's 10 minutes longer with some alternate cuts. So
what's added?
The elevator scene with the guy. It's a totally different scene, different dialogue, and I think it's way funnier. Some scenes are given more room to breathe. Some fight sequences are a little longer. I think the very best addition concerns Harry, though.
Okay.
It's at the birthday party. The scene of Peter and Harry talking by themselves at the birthday party is longer in Spider-Man 2.1, and Harry actually gets to show nuance. I don't think James Franco really carries it well at all, but we get Harry actually apologizes. He's like, hey, Peter, I'm so sorry that I'm so fixated on Spider-Man. I miss our relationship. I miss our friendship. I just want you to put yourself in my shoes. Think about how you feel about the guy that killed your Uncle Ben. You want him dead, right? That's how I feel about Spider-Man. To me, like, even that acknowledgement of like,
just the context of it.
Let's get a little context of that. That to me further serves the theme of Peter being like, Spider-Man is not worth it.
Right.
He hurts more people than he helps. I don't know. I just think that's one of those things that I cannot believe was cut. Just because it's anything that serves theme, we have to keep that in the movie just to further. I don't know. I think that's one thing this movie does well. Gosh, and maybe is my super pump. I don't know. I don't think it is. It's not. I'm not changing my mind.
Don't just throw that stuff around.
No.
You got to be serious.
Yeah. A thing that this movie does really well is the script. Everything exists to serve the central theme.
Right.
And I think we did a really good job. Our two big influences for this, we talked about this, I think last week during Shout Announcements, are The Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 1, the one that ran from 1968 or 9 to 1999. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, Issue 50, which is Spider-Man No More, where Peter, we get a ton of the same beats that we get here, where Peter's grades are slipping, Peter's falling behind on rent, Peter is getting fired or put on sort of probation at the Bugle, all because of Spider-Man. And so he says being Spider-Man is not worth it. Then obviously at the end, spoiler alert, he decides being Spider-Man is worth it. And we have another 50 years of Spider-Man stories at this point. The other big inspiration is The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, Issue 12, called Unmasked by Dr. Octopus. And it's the first appearance of Doc Ock. And in this, Peter has to, Doc Ock is kind of doing all these big crimes throughout New York City to goad Spider-Man into fighting him. And that's really all his motivation because, again, it was 1968. But Peter has the flu. And so Peter is like unable to fight him well because he's sick and he has the flu. And so it's interesting that we chose to bring that element in as well here with Peter starting to lose his powers. But the power loss thing, that's actually going to be my super dump.
Okay.
Because specifically my super dump is a continued hatred of organic webbing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because now what we want to do, Peter runs out of web. So we have to explain that biologically as like it's a mental thing, which to me just doesn't fully hold up, even though it serves the theme of both Peter and Otto by the end have to decide what kind of person am I going to be.
Right.
And they have the power, they have the agency to decide the kind of person they're going to be. But like if we want Peter to run out of webs or to have a hard time Spider-Manning, we should have not done organic webbing because then he could say, oh, I don't have the money to buy stuff to make webs. That stuff doesn't really hang together for me and really hasn't ever. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't love that.
It was put on a tee to do it well.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Except we made it organic. I hate, it's not a super dump, but it's a dump. But I hate the noise his wrists make when they're shooting blanks.
Yeah, his empty noise.
Can't help but think of the little little flap of skin that's just being like,
yeah.
I hate it.
Just little wrist farts. Yeah.
Yuck. What do you guys think in general about the power loss storyline in this?
I don't like it. I don't like the idea. Okay, so two things. I don't like the idea that his powers are dependent upon his state of mind. That seems crazy to me. Like that doesn't really hold up or make a lot of sense. And two, to me, it is more powerful if he struggles mentally with the idea of being Spider-Man and gives it up versus just saying like, I can't do it anyway, even if I want to.
Anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. This feels like one of those things. I forget that is in this movie.
Yeah, you too.
It's like how everybody looks fondly on the Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve Superman and forgets that canonically one of his powers is to throw the S off his chest somehow. It's like an energy, you know what I mean? It's like, what is that doing in that movie?
Yeah. Oh, that's bizarre.
Right?
I didn't remember that at all.
See? Nobody thinks about that. Yeah, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Is there anything, and we could cut this out because it might not be relatable at all, but when, so Tom Holland in Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, when he says, come on, Peter, like when he's like pushing up the rock.
Oh, you mean my favorite scene in Spider-Man Homecoming?
Yeah. You mean my favorite scene in any Spider-Man movie?
Yeah, that is, it's funny because we can still kind of have the struggle of like the motivation to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Also, I also
having organic webbing.
That scene. So
it's amazing.
Well, I think we can get a similar scene when he's stopping the train in this. Like, it's not that he's having to become superhuman again. It's that he's having to become more superhuman.
Because it's too difficult. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. My super dump is, and I might have to eat these words when we watch some of the Batman movies because I can't guarantee that it doesn't do some of the same things early on. But there's some like changing from scenes to scene that if you were to like give me a Sin City, we can kind of see the comic book wall between the next frame. Maybe it would make more sense.
Right. Yeah.
But there's some jumps here that are so it feels like it would have been so easy to not have it so jumpy. It's like, what 2 seconds did you have to cut off to where we just get the last like syllable of what Melina had to say, and then we jump straight to somewhere completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's some massive leaps because one of my favorite things about this movie is how many different genres it is.
Right.
Like it goes,
Totally.
Sam Raimi said, give me the hospital scene.
Yeah.
He said, give me.
That's just straight horror movie, dude.
It's a horror movie. So it's a horror movie. I was thinking at one point with the dynamic between MJ and Peter, like this could have been in Summer of Love. I mean, this is a romance movie too. It's a drama.
Right.
And then obviously it's an action movie. It's a superhero movie. it's semi sci-fi at times. And so it was like, even then, I think I would have respected all that more if the jumps weren't so harsh.
Right.
There was just times that I liked how it would be creative sometimes, and you would have like, we have a picture of, I think, Doc Ock's shades, and we zoom in on that, and now we're at the bank or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's creative, but they didn't do that throughout. It was just kind of like, next.
Yeah, it's so
They had to
funny
get
that
to it.
you get that poor editing in the same movie where you get the scene of Peter's Spidey sense warning him that there's a car flying towards the window, and that scene is edited so cool.
Yeah.
It's funny that those exist in the same world. Although I do have to ask, Doc Ock didn't know Peter was Spider-Man at that point, so he was just going to kill the guy that knew where Spider-Man was.
We're just going to completely
Just going to murder him. And this movie's full of little things like that where it's like, okay, whatever. Still love it. Won't stop me from loving it.
But again, this was pre-Dark Knight. It was okay that it's a live action cartoon.
Right.
It's like, that doesn't really make sense.
Right. My super dump was almost the fact that the first half of this movie, it feels like 50% of the shots are just close-ups of people screaming as loud as they can.
There's a lot of those like
Super camp.
really like whip zoom in on screams.
Yep.
Like, it is so like B movie.
But
Not the Jerry Seinfeld B movie. It's like a B movie. Single letter B.
Okay. I was confused. I thought
Not
you meant that
that
this is
good,
Jerry Seinfeld's The B Movie.
No, it's not Jerry Seinfeld's magnum opus, the thing he's most known for, the B movie.
When he's like, "What's the deal with honey?" And everybody
It comes
loves
from my butt.
I told you not to sting him. Now you're going to die.
I'm in love with a human woman. Everybody's fine with it. I guess we should probably go to shout announcements.
Yeah, feels like time.
Welcome to shout announcements. It's the shout announcements.
Listen, folks, if you have the power to act, then you have the responsibility to do so. You have the power to make a difference in the life of our podcast, and thus you have the responsibility. We need you to leave us a rating and a review on the iTunes store. That is the best way.
Quick R&R.
Quick R&R. That is the best way to help us reach new listeners, invite new people into our pod family, adopt new brothers and sisters for all of you, our beautiful children, to love and accept as your own playmates. Remember, with your great rating and reviewing power comes a great rating and reviewing responsibility.
Let me float this at you. How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Pod daddies.
That
and our listeners are our beautiful little babies.
Our pod babies.
Okay.
I think I have to think about that for a little while.
I already thought about it, and I'm not sure that
I'm not sure that I want to put like my name on LinkedIn as like Justin Dozier, Pod Daddy. That feels like that.
Well, we've been the pod boys for so long, but if we're adopting all of these beautiful little children.
Listen, it's time for a pod boy to become a pod man.
Pod daddies. I don't know. I'm just floating it. Let me know.
Okay.
The other thing I'm floating is next week, third installment of our Spider-Man series, wrapping up the Raimi trilogy with the Revenge of the Sith of the Spider-Man world. You either love it or you hate it. But the quality is not in question. The quality of the movie is not part of the conversation of whether you love it or hate it. I promise you that. It's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, y'all. And
if you want to do a little bit of homework, it's me, Doge, the nerd, telling you what comic books to read.
I nerd voiced myself. We're all even now.
You did it. Yeah, because you only did it once to me.
We're all even. You can check out, if you want to read some comics that inspired this, you can read the Alien Costume Saga, ran from May 1984 to April 1985. You can also check out the first appearance of the Sandman in the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, issue number 4, the 4th issue of Spider-Man. It's called Nothing Can Stop, ... The Sandman. Exactly.
I was thinking the same thing.
Spider-Man 3 takes a lot of liberties with these comic characters. It gives Flint Marko, Sandman, a daughter and a wife and a sympathetic backstory. And in the comics, he's a nasty crook. And that's it. You can also check out things like the first appearance of Gwen Stacy, first appearance of the new Goblin, of Harry as the Goblin. But all of these things are kind of just suggestions little hints at things that may or may not have happened in the comic. This is a sort of a camel of a movie in terms of let's put this idea and this idea and this idea. And that is not a surprise to anybody listening. But
also, if you want to go ahead and watch all of that 70s show to prepare for Topher Grace, you can go ahead and do
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So read the Alien Costume Saga and watch all of that 70s show to understand all the references we'll be making next week.
Also, don't forget our Patreon. Please, outside of that rating and reviewing, if you want some more of that content from Two Chunks and a Hunk, you can pay $3 and you'll get some bonus episodes and you'll get extra votes. You'll get great power for only $3 a month. And then on the $5 tier, you get to join our Discord where we are wrapping up season 1 of Box Office Ball. And it could be that I've never lost. It's looking like
it's just
possibility here. We're close to $2 billion now.
Yeah.
For team Carter. But,
that's interesting.
There's still a chance.
Like how you always win the game you invented.
I bet James Naismith won a lot of basketball games.
I for some reason, I feel like you always talk about how you know that James Naismith invented basketball.
Do I?
You brought this up this very thing.
Like pretty frequently.
I just love basketball so much.
I do know that about you.
You do look like a straight up cast member from White Men Can't Jump today.
I'm a real ball
I like
head.
it a lot.
I'm just a real ball head.
You got your Wesley Snipes hat on. It looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's only something that we get to see.
Nobody else.
Now is the best time to start working at Amazon. They are offering sign-on bonuses up to $3,000 and hourly pay up to $22 per hour. You'll bring home a great weekly paycheck, and many jobs come with benefits that start on your first day. That's higher pay, sign-on bonuses, benefits day one. And you'll be part of a safe and inclusive workplace ranked among the best in the world. Go to amazon.com/apply to start your job search today. Amazon is proud to be an equal opportunity employer.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
I feel like I've been overly negative on this movie. I finally want to say something positive for once.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and super pump here. Just get it out of the way, and then I can go back to being that real negative, downer about how much I hate this movie. You're allowed to guess. Yeah, guess.
Well, my super pump was almost this, but I don't want to take your reveal away.
Okay. My super pump is the train scene.
Oh, okay. Never mind. That's my super pump.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super-de duper pump.
Super-de duper.
The train sequence, starting.
This is the part that made me cry.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk briefly about it then, and I want you to have the spotlight for that then.
Well, I mean, I don't have to do that.
Trying to spotlight, clear the cobwebs from your emotional corners because you're about to be put on display. I think the train sequence in this movie, which, if I'm not mistaken, begins with the fight on the clock tower, and then they fall off the clock tower onto the train.
One of the first things they filmed, I think, for this movie.
This is, for my money, the best action sequence, certainly in a Spider-Man movie. It is close to top superhero movie moments.
This is the best Spider-Man scene.
Yeah. This is, it is absolutely the choreography of it, the kineticism of it, the way it ends with, and I'm even fine with the really, really blatant crucifix thing.
Right.
When he falls back and his arms are outstretched like he's on a cross.
That's kind of this whole movie a little bit.
It's so blatant and so cheesy, but that is fine with me. This is so, I don't know, if the central thesis of this movie, if the theme of this movie is about deciding the kind of person you want to be and then being that with all your heart and with all yourself, being that kind of person, this sequence feels like the movie saying, this is what we are. We are a cheesy, we are a, at times, really shoddy CG. We are a completely earnest, heartfelt cartoon made real. And so we're going to be it. We're going to completely be it. We're going to be exactly what we are, nothing more, no less, for this entire train sequence. This is, even as a kid, I was like, I have never seen anything like that. It is so, so good.
Yeah, the only other movie depictions that we get of a superhero to where it is it is dramatic is one of the most dramatic heroes, and it's Batman, right? We had the Tim Burton Batmans, but that was brooding because it's Batman,
right?
You know,
right.
It's like Hot Topics #1.
Yep.
But yeah, with Spider-Man, it was fine. I think in 2004 even it was fine because this is before everything just kind of starts getting Oscar noms. Even though this won an Oscar, by the way, this movie did.
Did it really? For what?
Visual effects.
Well, 2004 was a different time.
It looked infinitely better than 1.
It did look a lot better than 1, but also the Spider-Man PS5 remastered game looks infinitely better than some of the CG in this.
Right, yes. No, that's valid.
Sure.
That's valid. 100%. When he threads the needle on that bridge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then does it again in the windows of the subway. Like him crawling around the train with Doc Ock. One of the things I love about Doc Ock is the closest Spider-Man gets to fighting himself in some ways as far as mobility goes.
May I introduce you to a little boy known as Venom?
Yeah, no, I know. But I'm talking about strictly like the way that we're fighting on like vertical surfaces and going around
Doc
things.
Ock matches Peter's verticality.
Right, yeah. It's very interesting. It's very fun.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
That's also a thing too that's like, we talked about, or at least I talked about a little bit in Spider-Man. It had to be hard to make Spider-Man a movie character because of the way he moves.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to pull that stuff off. And so, this kind of feels like what you would get in the 2010s when Doctor Strange is just flipping the world upside down, or like Inception and stuff. But you're getting it in 2004 in a Spider-Man movie. And I remember it being mind-blowing. I was like, I have no idea.
Is it real? Was it real? Did they film the real thing?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that the sun? How they do that?
So on the train, I'm going to specify my super pump.
Tell me about those tears.
Yeah. So it's weird, man. It really is something about Spider-Man. Okay. So when he fights Doc Ock on the train, Doc Ock bails and he has to exert like all of his. So I start welling up, right? When he shoots, the tears begin to form in the eyes when he finally does the like multi-web thing. And then just the strain on his face. And he makes the decision, maskless, not to leave and protect his identity, but instead to save a train full of people. And he stops the train. He barely gets it. The tears start to really build when he goes to collapse and they pick him up and carry him through. And then the one guy goes, geez, he's just a kid. And it's like, dude, that's who's been protecting you this whole time. Then the 2 kids come, give him his mask back.
We won't tell
nobody. But for me, when the tears fell, like to the point where I was like, okay, hold on. When the 2 random dudes are like, if you want him, you're going to have to go through me. That is Spider-Man storytelling at its peak to me, is when New York protects their boy. We get a similar scene in Miles Morales, the video game, kind of something vaguely similar. We actually get a nice swing at this that I kind of appreciate in Amazing Spider-Man 1. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But when New York...
with the cranes?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to steal it from you. Yeah.
Yes. When New York... it's a cliche at this point in movie discussion to say New York's a character.
It really should have been top billed. The city's just so alive and vibrant in this.
But when New York, a city that is being conditioned to hate Spider-Man by the Daily Bugle, when they stand up to protect him instead, dude, I lost it. It's just peak Spider-Man.
It's totally that like Richard Donner, Marlon Brando, Jor-El speech. They're like, you'll give them an ideal to strive toward.
Right.
And racing behind you, they will join you in the sun. It's like that exact kind of thing.
Well, and that's what Aunt May, Aunt May literally sets this up before it happens.
Yep.
She's
There's
like,
a hero in all of us, keeps us noble, keeps us honest.
But when she's like, he needs somebody to look up to, we kind of all need somebody to look up to. And it gives us, Spider-Man gives us something to chase after.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Until then, it was just in New York. It was just Jameson.
Yeah.
It was just
he's the only one. But yeah, dude, it's just so good. It's the best Spider-Man scene we have up to this point. I'm hoping No Way Home beats it in some way, just because I want No Way Home to be amazing. But man, when I think of Spider-Man, I think of the train. Really do.
Absolutely. This is one of those things when I think of movies from 2000 to 2005 or 2000
it's
to
Lord
2010.
of the Rings and this scene.
Exactly. Like if we're showing a reel of like the best movie moments of the 2010s, like we've got Helm's Deep in there and we have this in there for sure.
Yep. 100%.
And Nick Cage catching the Declaration instead of the love of
exactly.
his life.
Yes. It's interesting. Like thematically, it's interesting that Nick Cage in that movie says the line, the founding fathers believed that if a man had the power to act, he had the responsibility to do so. And it's like, oh my gosh, dude, you just also watched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Well, they came out the same year, and I think even the same time of the year. So who took from who? I don't know.
The world may never know. You know all those old National Treasure comics?
Yeah.
For all the...
Is all, the preamble to Ghost Rider, basically.
Yeah, I love this scene so much. It's the best. Let me talk about what I thought your super pump might have been because it was almost mine.
Go.
Alfred Molina is
fantastic.
Doc Ock.
Are you kidding me? Fantastic.
I was shocked at how much we don't get.
I know.
He's heavy at the beginning, and maybe the middle hour is like a couple scenes, and it's just like, don't worry, he's building it.
He's working in the background.
Again.
Yeah.
So... yeah, and that's a testament to how great he was when you wish there had been more.
Oh my gosh.
I Won't
His redemption
Die a
at
Monster
the end.
is so good. That's why, spoiler alert, I guess, my theory for No Way Home, in order to not wreck the character growth that we saw in 2, is that he will not be a villain.
I hope not. I really hope not. I love Otto and Peter's relationship here. That's not something that's present in the first appearance of Doc Ock, Amazing Spider-Man 12, I think, 15. Unmasked by Dr. Octopus. Like he's really just kind of one note. But this is taken from the Ultimate Comics. I think it's like issues like 1 through 12 or 12 through 24. Something like it's right around the beginning of that run in the first couple of years of it where Peter and Otto meet before he's transformed and like he's sort of a mentor figure to Peter. I just think that works so well in this. That's such a great choice to carry that iteration of the character forward and give.
Yeah, I think it's great.
We actually get a really fantastic Peter and Doc Ock story in the Spider-Man game for the PlayStation. It's a really, really, really good version of that story as well.
It is. And I think that is, to me, that's one of the strengths of the script of this movie, that at the beginning, Peter's learning these lessons from Doc Ock. Brilliant, but lazy, right? Which is... incidentally, sort of how I feel about co-opting the previous Spider-Mans into a big finale Spider-Man on Marvel. Like, that's brilliant. But is it lazy? I don't know. Are we going to do our own character legwork here?
This is Game of Thrones, DCEU scarred Doge talking. Let yourself feel, let the hype flow through you, my man.
I know it is. But we get the fantastic inversion of that at the very end of Peter and Otto. Peter basically saying, like, you have to decide what kind of person you're going to be. I've decided this is what I need to do. I need you to decide something similar. I just think it was so good. So good.
It's really well done.
While we're on Doc Ock, I have a couple bits of I Am Doo-Doo trivia.
Please.
Oh, please.
Spider-Man 2, understandably, is rich with trivia. There's like 250.
Heavily trivia'd. Yeah.
Trivias. But there's a couple very near the bottom that not very many people found helpful on IMDb. One of them is at around 48 minutes. So when Ock robs the bank, Spider-Man throws a bag of coins at the end of his string right back at Ock. This could be a reference to the bolus spider, which catches its prey by throwing a balled up piece of webbing rather than making a web. Not interesting.
I don't think it is, actually. I don't think it is.
I would say maybe when he throws the balls of web is probably closer to that reference.
Here's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, I Am Doo-Doo trivia we have ever had. Near the end of the movie, Doc Ock, played by Alfred Molina.
Okay, that's who that is.
Says, I will not die a monster. In Monsters University, he plays Professor Knight, a monster. Near the end of the movie, Doc Ock, played by Alfred Molina, says, I will not die a monster. In Monsters University, he plays Professor Knight.
A monster. Get out.
If you look closely at Alfred Molina's life, you can tell they didn't actually kill him for this scene. That's so stupid.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hands. If y'all haven't checked out Raimi memes on the internet, I suggest going ahead and checking that out.
Raimi memes is my blood at this point in my life. The tentacles look pretty good.
They look pretty good,
great.
dude.
They're puppets a lot of the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
actual puppets on sticks, like Muppets, people in blue morph suits with blue pole, like holding them up. That's why they look good. Like any of them where they're interacting with Ock when they're like giving him a cigar, putting his sunglasses on, or giving him that whiskey, or putting his hat on. That's a puppet.
Yeah.
That somebody's
That's so cool.
manipulating with that. The puppets look really good. The CG looks all right, but the puppets really, really hold up to me.
We only got one early Harry Potter Quidditch-esque scene to me in this movie, and it's when Doc Ock carries Mary Jane up the side of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody just looks kind of like Gumby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but Raimi wasn't afraid to try. I think I respect that.
Yes.
Give it a shot.
Let's go back. Let's rewind just a little bit. Let's talk a little more in depth about that hospital scene when they're about to cut the arms off of Doc Ock.
Oh my goodness.
The draped tarps over the arms when he's laying there. I mean, we're verging on body horror here.
Again,
I mean,
we did it again.
It definitely is. Yeah. It's the way that the spine connects to him, that it's all these needles going into his spine. Otto Octavius is the toughest man in the world because he's just like, ow. I would have just been like,
everybody in front of him gasps as though they can see the back of him.
Yes.
It cracks me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. But I mean, there's screams and people died for sure. But it's like a chainsaw.
Yeah,
it is so horror.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so fun.
Apparently,
that sequence would never make it in a big blockbuster superhero movie now.
You don't think so?
I don't. I think they're like, I know there's a lot of people who will say they're super formulaic and Marvel just does the same thing over and over again. I actually don't think that's a very fair criticism.
I don't either.
But I think the PG-13 rating has been so codified. The PG-13 rating itself is formulaic.
Yeah, but there's no blood or gore here. I think we can pull it off.
There is not, but this also, you can't tell an action figure this scene.
That's
I have a hard time feeling like something like this that is blatantly like, we're going to put this little horror sequence in the middle of a Spider-Man movie that a parent might be bringing their 6-year-old in a Spider-Man mask to go see. I don't think Disney would put this in a movie.
Sure. Yeah, that's valid.
Maybe.
That's valid. Hey, guys, real quick animal update from Jordan's recording window. Little black cat's walking around. Hey, buddy.
Hello, kittens.
I found a shocking no one, a large soft spot in my heart for cats since getting my own cat friend who lives with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
some would call that a pet.
I wouldn't. That's pejorative.
Yeah. Can anybody really own a cat?
I prefer no is the answer, by the way. Sometimes you can't even pick him up. He's slippery. He's a quick guy. I prefer roommate. I prefer the term feline roommate. I think that the glass killing Rosie is dumb because there's no metal in it. So why is it flying?
Because I guess it should just fall, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it magnetic or it does have a gravitational pull?
That's a good question. I mean, it only
knows?
seems to affect metal. So you tell me, champ.
I think they wanted to have her eyes in that reflection.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's why they did that, which was fun. That
Send
was
a shiny piece of metal over, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They also they do a plug for Doritos. Like someone's got a bag of Doritos.
Yep.
Just kills.
I know she's dead, but
that would actually be bad for Doritos. There would be lots of 10-year-olds that would never have Doritos again.
It's like
killing Doc Ock's wife.
It's like the Apple thing. It's like bad publicity in a movie. Have you guys seen that Apple doesn't allow villains in movies to have cell phones?
That came out around the time of Knives Out.
Yeah, because Chris Evans is the only one in Knives Out who is not using an iPhone.
Doesn't have an iPhone. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Man, if you're a movie, you are never going to have an Apple product in your movie again. So
Apple's changed that now.
Good.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
because now it was like a plot point, like spoiler.
Yeah, totally.
That's so stupid.
Because evil people don't use Macs. We know this.
They use Windows.
Ew.
They use Windows. I'm recording on a Windows computer right now.
Yuck.
We barely talked about Mary Jane, by the way. I just realized that.
Yeah.
I don't think Kirsten Dunst is very good here.
I thought she's great.
I think she did a good job.
I think this is the best thing she's done. This movie.
Fargo season 2. But yeah, I think she does
I've never seen
a good job. I think she does a good job. I think that
the script to me doesn't give her anything to do other than cry over boys. Yeah.
She just doesn't she doesn't appear to have a whole lot of agency or importance to this story, which is a bummer. I really appreciate, I know that there are mixed feelings on Zendaya's MJ identity and all that kind of stuff. But one thing I appreciate is that she is smart and fun and funny and has some agency within the script and the MCU. Like, we get a little bit of that with Gwen too. She's a little more. She's got
even
more
Mary
personality.
Jane in the PlayStation game, the other notable Spider-Man adaptation we've had recently. Dude. Mary Jane is basically Lois Lane in that game.
Totally,
which rocks. I don't. Well, I was about to say I don't necessarily love, but there is the problem of Mary Jane needs some agency.
Yeah.
And more recent comics have done a better job at that. But the reality is that when the character was created, she was
a
damsel and sort of wish fulfillment. She was a model who was in love with a nerd. And that's comics had that sort of unfortunate history and stigma at that time.
I feel the same way about updating Mary Jane's story and character arcs as I do about intentionally diversifying the Eternals cast.
Yeah.
Which is like, why not?
Yeah.
Or even, all of the rewrites for Shang-Chi.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't you change it? It's not like you're ruining a story. You're making it better because you are making it more believable because people are not monoliths. People are not this one thing.
And there's so much irony in saying something is like woke. Like, oh, well, this is woke. I was like, but would you rather just be snoozing? Like, what is the alternative?
Dang.
Wake up.
That's my new Twitter bio, dude.
Wow. He solved it.
You might get mad that I'm woke, but you're just out here snoozing.
But you snoozing. You're out here snoozing. You know what that means.
Now
you're
I
losing.
feel like there's no respect for what I
No, I think you're right. No, you're
right.
You're absolutely right.
You're right.
And there's
the core thing.
We won't get into how annoyed I am at the concept
Why did you wake me up?
Why
did you wake me up?
How annoyed I am by people being
because
mad
you need to eat
at progress.
Because you need to work.
Imagine being like
the core thing. Hey, I'm trying to rein us back in. I'm trying to get us back on track with Spider-Man.
Don't.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, imagine being mad that progress is happening, and you're like, "Don't be woke, be sleepy, and backwards in time."
I think the core thing that you can't change about Mary Jane, that this movie actually doesn't change about Mary Jane, is that she fully understands the risk of being with Peter and decides Peter's worth it. To me, everything else is fair game to update, but that's the core of Mary Jane's character. Even early on, that was an unusual amount of strength displayed for a woman in comics at the time.
Yeah.
To me, that's the thing that this movie does right, but almost everything else with her is a total bummer of early 2000s women or props in movies.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll notice some of that in the 80s as well.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes. Well, I guess it's time to rate this movie using the scientific cinema scale. The inspiration for the science that Doc Ock uses to create the power of the sun in the palm of his hand.
He copied us.
It's perfect, the scientific cinema scale, and it is as follows. The best thing we could ever say about a movie is own it, don't lend it.
Buy that poster.
The next best thing is buy it. That's followed by rent it, and then stream it. And after that is forget it, and last, but certainly least, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie.
God hath forsaken us.
I'm going to go first because I want y'all to be able to end strong. I buy it.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's I think to others it would be an understandable, like, unfair buy. Like, why isn't this a poster for you? But I've got to say, it just wasn't moving the needle like a lot of other things that were happening for me in movie franchises at the time. And I think because it wasn't as memorable for me, and it still was a great experience, it didn't catch that. And honestly, I'm more envious of that because I love that feeling. I love the how influential that was. But for me, it was just a window, and I think that's kind of a fascinating little.
You've just come off Return of the King, like less than a year before. You've come off Return of the King, yeah, the Christmas before,
wrapped.
yeah,
and I'm still in the middle of Harry Potter, which I'm also reading at the time. So, it's a buy, but gosh, this is a great movie.
Yeah, it's a poster for me. And in fact, it's in the echelon of where I actually would hang this poster for real. It's a buy that poster, man. It is not perfect in reality, but it is perfect in my mind, and it is perfect in experience for me. I love this movie so much.
This is a rating that is on par with like E.T., the Extraterrestrial, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, in terms of movies that are so important to me, where I wish that I had not bought posters for other things. I wish there was a rating higher than poster that I could give something like this or something like
tattoo
E.T.
it
or
on your
Empire
back.
Strikes
Get
Back.
a tramp stamp of this movie.
Something. Yeah, I'll get a tramp stamp of this movie. That's the rating I give it. No, I buy the poster. This is like one of those super, super influential and important movies to me. I have probably seen this movie over 30 times. Like, I could probably quote the entire thing back to you when we started playing it. It's just one of those that is so awesome. Important and meaningful to me, and like has shaped my taste in movies, my taste in media, but also like who I am as a person. I know like my therapist, my counselor would tell you that ethos of if you have the power to do something, it's your responsibility to do something about it. Like that is a core motivator for me a lot of the time. And it can be unhealthy. And I hope that sometimes it can be good and worthwhile.
Right.
But for whatever reason, like this movie just hit me at that perfect time to completely shape me, both like my taste in entertainment and my lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
I like to live my life like Spider-Man, you know?
I live my life
One
like
web at a
Spider-Man
time.
too. One web at a time. I live my life a quarter web at a time.
Well, we sure did it, didn't we?
We sure did.
That is...
Here we are.
That is an episode.
Wrapped it
next
up.
week.
Next time, we'll be doing No Way Home.
No.
It just sounded like we were done.
Next week, Spider-Man 3. Sam Raimi.
Not even halfway through.
Now dig on this.
And our next mini Monday, Hawkeye.
Hawkeye episode 1.
Hawkeye episode 1. Is it a 2-episode release, though?
Oh, is it?
I thought I had read that it's episodes 1 and 2.
Well, it's going to be a long episode of ours if it is.
Yeah, make sure you stay tuned for that one. For 2 chunks and a hunk. What I'd like to do, man, I beefed that pretty bad. What I'd like to do to end the episode this time.
It is Ep 1 and 2.
Okay, it's good to know. Let's do a little Hawkeye prediction.
I think I'm the hottest guy.
You know, my sister really, are you making fun of that?
No.
My sister, when Avengers came out, she was like, why do they call him Hot Guy? I was like, no. Hey, no.
Because he's heating up. He keeps hitting bullseyes. He's heating up. He's Hot Guy. He's on a hot streak of arrows.
Oh, man. To end today's episode, I'd like for each of us to say our names and which MCU character, unconfirmed, we believe will make a cameo in Hawkeye. You can be real or silly. I'm giving you permission to be the full spectrum here.
Wow, thanks. I've been waiting for that go ahead pretty much since we started this podcast because I feel like we're never either.
It's finally your time. It's finally your time. I'm Jordan, and Florence Pugh's character, whose name escapes me right now, is Defo going to be in Hawkeye. Is she confirmed? Let me back it up.
Yeah, she's confirmed.
She's confirmed.
She's confirmed. I've been staying away from trailers for this one.
She's a top build.
Okay, let me back it up. Let me feel it out.
Flip it and reverse it, please.
I think that in this one, in this Hawkeye, this show, I think I got it. Obadiah Stane, he's back.
With a box of scraps. Didn't he die?
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Bingo.
He's back.
That was my panic answer.
I'm Doge. Val. I mean, it's obviously Val.
Yeah.
Val's going to be in this.
Yeah, for sure.
She's not confirmed though, right? Elaine? She's not confirmed.
She's not.
Yeah,
no,
she
no,
defo
no.
in there.
She is now.
Yeah. In a similar vein, I'm Carter and John Walker.
That's what I was about to ask, if we thought he was going to be there. Yeah.
I think John Walker's going to be in it.
I think so too.
Because it would not surprise me.
I also might say John Walker's one of the best things about that series, about that television show.
I'll take that.
He's interesting.
Introducing him.
that.
Yep.
It was great.
Totally. Well, you know what they say. Every time we end this episode, let's say it together. Every time we end a podcast episode, we say, we love you.
We love
We love you.
We're proud of you.
We're proud of you.
We believe in you.
We believe in you.
Chase your heart.
Chase your heart.
Follow your dreams.
Follow your dreams.
And as always,
And never leaves.
go in peace.
Go in peace. Young one.
Sayonara.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
At Giant Eagle, we've always loved our perks. Now we're excited to welcome you all to the future of loyalty with My Perks. There's no math, less rules, and more perks. 50 perks equals $1 off your total, and there are no limits. Plus, you earn perks even when you redeem, so you're always building rewards towards free gas and groceries. Guests who earn the most perks can now unlock My Perks Pro, and pros get even more pumped up savings. Visit gianteagle.com/myperks to switch today.